Okay, there is a lot of buzz on the internet right now about the new information concerning Tylenol or acetaminophen and the increased rates of autism and ADHD. President Trump came out with a statement on September 22nd warning pregnant women that the use of acetaminophen in pregnancy may contribute to increased rates of autism. Within 24 to 48 hours, the WHO came out with a statement refuting this, as did Tylenol. In today's video, I want to unravel some of that research that's really actually been around for quite a while, linking the use of Tylenol to neurodevelopmental disorders. I'm also going to share the causal factors that none of these OBGYNs are talking about. Why is it potentially a contributing factor to it? What is the actual biological link that is causing these increased rates of neurodevelopmental disorders? And at the end, I'm going to share with you the best thing that you can do to prevent the need for Tylenol at all, plus a homeopathic remedy that will naturally decrease your fever. So if you're in pregnancy right now and you're wondering, what do I take naturally? You can try this remedy. And I'm also going to provide some resources for you to seek homeopathic care so that we can get out of the conventional medical system and all of the side effects that we know have been around for quite a while. Hi, my name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign. I've recovered from IBS, parasitic infection, heavy metal toxicity, Lyme's disease, asthma, allergies, histamine intolerance, food intolerances, and a host of neurological issues associated with multiple severe concussions, all outside of the medical system, all using food as medicine, and it is my passion to help others do the same. Okay, so I want to run through some of the research to start out because I think it's obviously quite contrasting. There's people saying that there's no research to cite this, yet there's been research that's been around for, like I said, quite a while, indicating that there is some sort of correlation or link between these neurodevelopmental disorders. Specifically, I believe the research started with ADHD, but has now expanded to autism, and the use of acetaminophen. The first study, I believe, came out of Sweden. It was looking at siblings, basically comparing and contrasting a sibling pair, one of which during the pregnancy, the mother was using Tylenol, and one of which they were not. And that was one of the bigger studies that showed the link, the potential correlation between the use of Tylenol and ADHD and autism. Now, they did a second study in Sweden where they kind of refuted this. They looked a little bit more in depth. They took away the sibling control, which could be due to a variety of other factors. They controlled for several other variables that were more convincing to our medicalized minds and medical community. And so that study basically refuted the claims previously saying that there was a correlation. It's saying now that there wasn't a correlation. Now, in that second study that was meant to refute the claims, I believe it was around 7.2% of mothers that were reported to have used acetaminophen in Sweden. These were the mothers that were being studied, and that number is dramatically low when you look at the actual countrywide rates of use of acetaminophen in pregnancy. Actually, when you look more broadly, they found that the rates were actually closer to 50 to 60% that were using it. And so very likely this data wasn't super accurate to the population at large and potentially was slightly skewed. When you compare it to all the other data that's out there, I would have to say that there's something kind of fishy about the numbers here and how it matches up with the country's use of Tylenol as a whole. Okay, now there have been dozens of studies around this topic, many of them proving correlations to not just autism, but ADHD and other neurodevelopmental disorders. In the statement that Trump made, he's referring to this new study that was published in August of 2025. It was an observational study, so a little less robust than maybe the second study that was in Sweden, but like we said, the numbers kind of look slightly skewed in that. And what they did was they compiled 46 studies that have looked at the correlations between some sort of neurodevelopmental disorder and Tylenol, and they found that 27 of those studies showed increased risk, 9 showed no association, 4 showed decreased risk, and 6 showed mixed results. Now that's including not just autism, but like I said, all these neurodevelopmental disorders categorized kind of lumped into one. Only 8 of the studies actively looked at autism. And autism actually did have a smaller correlation than the ADHD rates, which have been even more firmly proven to be correlated. So I would argue that since this study is literally coming from the medical system themselves, Harvard Medical, that it's actually really important information, whether or not we've had the data so far. If you're not convinced by it, I think it's valid to have all of these little kind of concerns about the study, but being that there's over 46 different studies on the topic and 27 showed correlation to some sort of neurological issue, I would say it's probably a valid claim, okay? Now, I'm not going to stop there because obviously it's just a correlation. And I've heard so many people yapping on the internet about how it's a correlation, it's not causation. And that's not how you do science. And obviously we know that. But let's break down now what I think is actually happening in the bodies of pregnant women that could potentially be the cause of these increased rates of neurodevelopmental disorders. Now, I want to start by just saying that obviously autism is quite complex. There are a number of other causes to autism that we know of: methylation, toxin exposure, the gut microbiome and toxin exposure of your parents, antibiotic exposure, your liver health, all of it. These all are contributing factors. And so there may be obviously more than one. I'm not going to simplify it and just say that it's just this one thing that's been causing it. I don't think that. But what's happening in the body? So essentially what Tylenol does, and this is the irony of it, is it actually depletes your glutathione stores. And I want to kind of read this segment from this GAPS baby book by Dr. Becky Plotner. There is a quote in it that says, "One of the main concerns with fever is parents tend to lean towards antibiotics. Nasha Winters, ND, FABNO, is a naturopathic doctor who specializes in addressing cancer, says Tylenol, acetaminophen, is the most poisonous medicine on our planet. It is one of the top death-causing problems in our country. This is even properly prescribed acetaminophen or Tylenol. We've been suppressing fever when you want those puppies to burn wild. I actually coached my parents on how to get through this process and to trust it." She expands by saying, "The system has freaked them out about fevers. When we give acetaminophen to a child, we completely destroy their methylation and their mitochondria. That, in fact, can be one of the biggest drivers of autism. Acetaminophen is absolutely one of the worst. It takes all the glutathione out of your body, all of it." So this is her perspective. This is Nasha Winters, who's a naturopathic doctor addressing cancer, but relevant to our conversation. She would basically say that it completely depletes your glutathione. This is what research is showing. So the irony is glutathione is actually a feel-good antioxidant. It helps you to manage pain. And people who are low and depleted in glutathione actually experience more pain. Let's dig a little bit deeper into this. So glutathione is an antioxidant produced naturally in the liver and nerve cells. It is a tripeptide, meaning that it's composed of 3 amino acids: glutamine, cysteine, and glycine. It is often called your body's master antioxidant, and it helps prevent cellular damage caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. We know that acetaminophen is actually one of the leading causes of liver disease in the US. Prolonged use of it and usage beyond the dose that's recommended is actually known to cause irreversible liver damage. It affects our glutathione production. So we don't just know that about children, we know that also about adults. This is something that I actually would advocate that nobody ever takes in, because I think there are so many other options to pain management than taking something that suppresses our body's own ability to make the very thing that is actually going to help us in the long run. So when you go to try to manage your pain with Tylenol and you completely deplete your body's natural pain mechanism, you develop this need for more pain relief that's external to your own body's mechanisms, because your own mechanisms start to malfunction. Acetaminophen is metabolized into a reactive compound called NAPQI. Adults can detoxify the NAPQI with our higher glutathione stores. Pregnancy, however, can lower your glutathione stores, which could increase oxidative stress and mitochondrial strain in fetal tissues. This can essentially damage our ability to detoxify. So especially when you're seeing doctors giving and telling them to give their children Tylenol with the pain from the, you are depleting the body of its natural heavy metal detoxifying antioxidant while you are dosing the body in, I would argue, neurologically damaging amounts of heavy metals and toxins. So you can see how this wouldn't just relate to Tylenol in pregnancy. This actually could be related to Tylenol all throughout. Even ages 0 all the way up to 5 is where you see more robust levels of glutathione active in the system. There's also evidence of endocannabinoid system interference. This is a brain active metabolite. AM401 can interact with CB1, TRPV1 pathways that guide neural wiring. So this disrupts the signaling in these critical windows, which could again alter neurodevelopmental trajectories. Now, there are some dumb arguments out there on the internet right now. Correlation does not equal causation. Obviously, we know that, but we want to look a little bit deeper. And obviously, Tylenol can trigger this cascade of events that depletes the body, and when exposed to all of these environmental toxins, can cause one to be much more susceptible to neurological issues. I've also heard autism is not actually on the rise. Our framework for evaluating it has become more rigorous. And I just agree with President Trump when he says, you have never seen like a 75 or 80-year-old person with extreme levels of autism. Like, that's not happening. We're not seeing the older generation with this severe of autism. And then obviously there's the risk of the fever. And that's where I want to dive into some of my solutions. I want to provide you with some tools, some practical things that you can use in place of Tylenol. Obviously, if you're here on my channel, you probably aren't using Tylenol because you're trying to move away from the pharmaceutical model. But I want to give you some natural solutions, some natural things that you can do to reduce fever, because there is obviously risk when fever gets too high in pregnancy. So let's just start with some things that you could do if you have taken acetaminophen in pregnancy, say you are still pregnant, and what could you do to support your body's natural glutathione production? First is that you can eat more folate-rich foods. This would be egg yolks. I did a whole series here on egg yolks, beef liver. There are certain vegetables that have folate, but most of it you're going to get more abundantly from animal products. You can also commit to not getting any in pregnancy or any more in pregnancy if that's where you're starting out. Because again, the combination of the influx of toxicity, which we know if we look at the package inserts on these, that there are a sizable chunk of toxicity in each of them, combined with then the depleted glutathione levels, that is kind of a recipe for disaster. You can also increase your choline intake through foods. Again, that's going to be found in the eggs, fat, supporting your antioxidant levels with mineral repletion, making sure you're getting lots of minerals, that every glass of water has minerals in it, adding a little pinch of salt, making some mineral mocktails, and you can also take glutathione supplements. Now, I don't recommend this without talking to your healthcare provider. This is not my recommendation necessarily, but there is increasing, at least anecdotal evidence in the information that I'm sifting through to say that it has been proven really helpful during a pregnancy for a wide range of symptoms. But if you supplement it, you're essentially revamping your body's glutathione stores. Something else to keep in mind is ideally you're not in the situation where you would need Tylenol in the first place. So always thinking through like what might actually be causing this migraine as opposed to just trying to slap a Band-Aid quick fix solution onto it. We want to get to the root of the symptoms. That's what I'm about here on this channel. So if you have a migraine, let's check on your B vitamin intake. Let's make sure that you've got lots of good liver in your diet and nutrient-dense foods, minerals. Make sure that you're really repleted. Make sure your magnesium stores are good because that's often a big cause of migraines. Think anytime that you have pain, try to source back to the real reason why your body's having the pain instead of looking to something like acetaminophen as a fast-acting Band-Aid. Again, those Band-Aids never really get to the root of it. This is why I actually would never recommend anybody being on that or relying on it. And obviously, it's doing damage to some of the natural systems in the body, so it's not ideal. And ultimately, if you end up with a fever, we want to exhaust every holistic remedy possible. And this actually happened to me when I was in my first pregnancy with my son. I got sick and my fever was starting to spike pretty high. It was starting to get in the range of where conventional medicine would be quite concerned. And I believe it's like 103 to 104 is where they start to kind of get concerned. I was at like 103 and I was kind of full on panicking. So I know the stress and I understand the temptation to grab for something that will very quickly bring down the fever. I actually had it in my house as a just in case thing, which I no longer have at this point because I don't believe in it. But what I learned in that time was that there are so many natural things, and I tried all of them, you guys, and I did all of them, and it did work, that you can try to reduce your fever completely naturally. There's onion poultices, there's vinegar foot baths, there's physically cooling down your temperature very gently because you don't want to put yourself in a freezing cold bath because then your body will probably spike a fever higher afterwards. But if you can gently be in a lukewarm bath or slightly colder than lukewarm, you can kind of draw your temperature down that way. This is, of course, if it's getting into that range of unsafe, potentially neurologically harming the baby that you're growing inside of you, because that would be like really the only scenario that I'm watching a temperature. Beyond that, I'm trusting my body's instincts and I'm supporting my body through it. You can obviously take things like vitamin C and immune supporting supplements, drink all your meat stock, all the gut supporting foods so that you can support your immune system naturally to be able to get through that sickness as fast as possible. But a lot of these holistic remedies really did work and I was really surprised by that. I want to say it was the onion poultice on my feet that actually lowered the temperature at the end of the day. You can also try Arsenicum album, which is a homeopathic remedy that is known for supporting seasonal colds and flus. But there's also belladonna, which is another homeopathic remedy that is specifically geared towards fever reduction. So I would exhaust all of those options. And I actually do have a name and contact of a homeopath that I trust that I will leave linked in the description box below if you're interested in getting support with an acute problem or something really specific, if you're trying to avoid the conventional medicine route and you really want to go the natural route, she's a great resource, and I will have her information below. But sometimes these remedies need to be catered a little bit more to your specific problems, and she will know how to do that really well. If you are sensitive to environmental toxins and that's maybe what's causing your headaches, we would obviously want to make sure that we find those out and make sure to avoid those problem areas or triggering situations for your symptoms, because that can ultimately reduce your need to depend on something like a Tylenol. And another amazing thing that you can do is, before you even get pregnant, is supporting healthy glutathione levels with coffee enemas. Coffee enemas actually can boost your glutathione levels naturally by over 700 times what your body's normally producing on a day-to-day basis. So it is amazing for detox, and it is amazing liver support. I have a whole video here on my channel on coffee enemas, and I will have it linked in the description box below. But some of the best things you can do for your body really happen before pregnancy. I'm not advocating for that during pregnancy, but before pregnancy, coffee enemas are a great tool. Now, of course, autism is quite complex. It is more than just caused by Tylenol. But if you're interested in learning more about the gut-brain connection that I talk about a lot here on my channel, and how autism specifically is related to your gut microbes, what you can do about it, I made a whole video about this, sharing what I think is actually the biggest source of toxicity and how it actually comes from your gut. There is a lot of indisputable research about this. I mean, we can debate Tylenol all day long. The gut-brain connection is really not debatable at this point. And so if you're in the situation after the fact and you're wondering, what do I do? I have ADHD, I have autism, or my child has autism. How can I support their body and their recovery? I've actually designed a 6-month coaching program all around healing your gut, detoxing your body, and rebalancing your nervous system. This really works for a number of issues. I have clients working with me right now that have anything from Lyme's disease to thyroid issues, histamine intolerance, all the way to Crohn's, colitis, candida, even depression and anxiety. And so there really is so much that can be done when we start addressing the gut health and using food as medicine to start to heal the gut lining. So if you're ready to dive into that, the program is called the Whole Health Blueprint. The application is linked below this video, so you can go ahead and apply. We would love to have you in the program. But our goal is really to get to the root cause of your chronic symptoms. So we're not just masking symptoms. We're not going to use any pharmaceutical tools at all. We're really doing preventative nutritional healing, doing the kind of healing that I know your body is designed to do when it's given the right tools. So we're really trying to free up your body from toxins, fuel it with the right things that it needs, and regulate it so that it can heal in the most efficient way. Right now, the program includes 12 one-to-one coaching sessions plus 12 group coaching sessions, in addition to all the courses and material that you'll get throughout the course of the 6 months that you're in the program. And I've had so much interest in the program and so many clients joining that I actually am going to have to shut down the one-to-one option soon. I'm in the process of kind of reorganizing and revamping the program to be able to accommodate more people because the demand is getting high. So by October 10th, I actually will be done doing the 12 one-to-one sessions throughout the whole program. So if you join now or before October 10th, you will get the most catered version of this program, the most supported version of this program. I'm literally going to hold your hand through the entire way. Ample amount of time for us to talk through things one-to-one, so it's all personalized and catered to you and your needs. And we are seeing great wins, you guys. I'm really excited about this program. People reporting more energy, less gut issues, even within the first week or two of being in the program. So don't miss out on this. The link below is to apply. And if you got any value out of this video, like the video and subscribe to my channel for more root cause gut health related content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.